Welcome to The Author Show, where we feature new authors and books, from fiction to self-help and everything in between. You'll find it all at theauthorshow.com. That's theauthorshow.com. And now let the show begin.
Hi, this is The Author Show, and I'm your host, Linda Thompson. Any child who loves kitties will love our featured book, Cat Soup, by author Luthie M. West. Now, it's not just about kitties, but kitties is the primary topic. Cat Soup is a delightful little story about a princess, her beloved cat, and some other very interesting characters. Luthie is here today to share her story with us. Luthie, welcome to The Author Show.
Thank you, Linda. I'm glad to be here.
Luthie, without giving too much away, what is Cat Soup about?
Well, I tried to go for the most traditional of fairy tale sounds in this. So it's about a princess. Well, actually, it's not about the princess. She and her little kitty instigate a line of adventure. She loses her cat, and of course, the king, her father, will give up to half his kingdom to find the princess's cat and make her happy again. So a neighboring king decides that his son, Prince Gael, should go out and expand their kingdom by finding this cat. And as he goes out, of course, he finds the typical cottage in the woods. And he goes in the cottage. It's empty. He sees some soup cooking. He helps himself to some soup. And from there, the whole thing is derailed. His whole search is derailed by an ogre. And this... it goes on like a side tangent adventure. And I have put both a sad ending and a happy ending to this story.
That's a cool idea. So what served as the inspiration for your storyline?
Actually, this one was right off the top of my head. I am often, or I used to be often, and hope to soon be often in a situation where I am surrounded by a lot of people of all ages and everything, children and adults as well, where I come up with a story off the top of my head. And this one, among others, delighted my audience so much that when I decided to write a children's picture book, I could hear this one being read by a parent to a child.
Did you write Cat Soup for any specific age group of reader?
This one would be more for like 4 and 5-year-olds, some 6, and sometimes as early as 3 have enjoyed this book.
Well, Luthie, I found your book cover and the illustrations within the book to be really captivating. Who is your very talented illustrator?
This book is illustrated by my Italian buddy. His name is Olsitola, and he has done this book and the one called The Bully Frog. So he's done 2 books for me.
You pursue your passions of storytelling through your writing and stage acting. Do you prefer one over the other?
Well, I'm just an entertainer, and I think books help me expand my stage. So I like telling stories, but when I wrote them down, I realized that there's a chance to reach far more people and entertain far more people through a book.
How would you describe your writing style? Do you write in rhyming verse or prose or a little of both?
Well, prose mostly, and I'm very dialogue heavy because I'm very character centered. I make very 3-dimensional characters. I like them to feel and sound real.
You mentioned that you included 2 endings in Cat Soup. What was your thought process behind doing this? Doesn't it confuse the reader?
Actually, it was. I have this little rascal streak in me, a little bit of mischief. And when I was getting down to the end of the book, I thought, we have an ogre here. And I really should capitalize on that fact. So I wrote an ending where, well, a cat is found, but it's given to the ogre.
Tell me, Luthie, have you always wanted to write children's stories?
Actually, I wanted to write for young adult, and I wasn't terribly sure that it was a young adult that I was aiming for, but I love kids of all ages, including my own age, and I love fantasy. And for a long time, I didn't have any faith in my own writing, so I dabbled a lot. So I have short stories and stories for little kids and stories for middle grade kids and young adult novels. And I am currently working on 2 young adult novels.
Can you give us a teaser about one of them?
Well, a little teaser. The one I'm working on right now has 3 parts. It's got the villain, the hero, and the magnificent. And this one is a fairy tale that has some of the typical creatures in it. This has got elves in it, and it has uniquavian in it, and gremlins, and goblins, and those sort of characters, as well as, of course, human beings and wizards and that. A uniquavian is a horned, winged horse.
Ooh, interesting.
Or a winged unicorn.
I love unicorns almost as much as I love kitties. When you read your books to young audiences, what are their reactions? What comments do they give you?
Oh, usually they're very excited and enthusiastic responses, especially from the younger they are, the more emphatic they are about, oh, I like this part, or why, and this guy did this, and what the prince did, and and they grab hold of their favorite character and they shout, why, we can do this, and I can do this, and it's like they want to converse with the characters that I've created.
That's got to be so cool, and such a sense of accomplishment you must feel when you're working with the kids, right?
Absolutely. This is why I enjoy doing readings. I like to, and I have set up a campaign to go to the local preschools and kindergartens this next year and do readings.
Is there a moral to the story in Cat Soup that you'd like your young followers to remember?
Gosh, I hope not. This is just for entertainment. And one of the things that I have learned myself, like I said, I had no faith originally in my writing. I had to learn that fantasy has its place. And the wonderful place of fantasy is to open up the imagination, and it opens up creative thinking. And there are some really famous people and great minds who attribute their wonderful innovations to having read fantasy as a youth.
Luthie, will you please read a short excerpt from Cat Soup for our listeners?
I would love to. This is the place where, after the soup has been eaten and Prince Gael is still in the cottage, and the ogre comes in. Though the prince was scared, he said to the ogre, I did it. I'm sorry, but I could not find anyone about. Besides, I hadn't eaten in so long. In response, the ogre grabbed him by the collar and held him up like a mama cat holds her kittens. Then I make my meal of you, the ogre growled. Wait, please, shouted the prince. I can make up for it. The ogre closed his mouth because he had it open to bite off the prince's head. How can you make up for soup? Gone now. Wait, please, said the prince again. I can give you up to half a kingdom to spare my life. The ogre set him down. What kingdom? I take half, he said. Well, said the prince, I can't give it to you now. First I have to find the princess's cat. Cat? Asked the ogre, not knowing what a cat was. If the prince had said lion or tiger, the ogre would have had some idea. A cat is a small furry animal with a long tail and 4 feet. Gael held his hands out to show the size of a cat. When the ogre found out how small a cat was, that it wasn't a tiger or lion or something big, he started to laugh. He pointed to the prince and said, There is cat. Quick as a fox, the prince turned around and there was nothing. Are you making fun of me? He asked the ogre. Ha, 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 you eat cat soup, announced the ogre. Cat inside you. And the ogre held up his huge club. What was the prince to do? He had to think quickly. He might not get to return the princess's cat and might not get up to half a kingdom, but he didn't want to die.
Oh my gosh, I love that, Luthie. So tell me, where can we learn more about you, about all your other books, and most of all, where can we purchase Cat Soup?
Well, if you go to my website, littlecabbageheadbooks.com, You can find out about me. You can read excerpts from each of my 4 children's picture books, and you will find links there to all the major online book retailers.
We've been talking with Luthie West, author of Cat Soup. Luthie, it's been delightful learning about this lost little kitty and what it goes through to get back home. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, and I do hope that when you release your next book that you'll want to come back and chat with us again.
I would love to, Linda. Thank you. Thank you for having me here, too.
Here's a review for Cat Soup that I believe will be an incentive for you to grab a copy for your kids or your grandkids. My grandson loves this book. He was very upset when the ogre said he had eaten the cat, but he learned that the ogre was not too bright and didn't know what a cat was. The illustrations are fantastic. I especially like the different endings. And I tell you, I really like cats, and I sure do like this story, and I thank you for listening. The Author Show podcast may be accessed at any time by visiting theauthorshow.com. And selected interviews can be also found on major podcasting platforms such as iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Podomatic, and many more. Are you an author who would like to be featured on our show? Please visit theauthorshow.com and complete the interview request form so that we may contact you. Marketing is seldom easy for authors, and the Author Show is a great way to promote your work worldwide using a high-quality interview that can make a real impact. Please visit our site daily as we continue to introduce wonderful authors of very interesting books on The Author Show.
Thanks for listening to The Author Show. Find out more about authors and their work at theauthorshow.com. theauthorshow.com. Tune in next time to another great author on The Author Show.